Your brain has a filter that'll either help you reach your goals or completely sabotage your goals. Now, when you're gearing up for the new year and you're getting ready to, conquer some things and really just be the best version of yourself, there's things that you need to know. So this video is going to be pretty simple. I'm going to break down psychological pieces. I'm going to break down physiological pieces. I'm going to break down diet and workout, all different things that you can put together to make sure that you prepare yourself mentally for the new year or whenever you're embarking on something. Okay, so when I was talking about the brain having a filter, what I meant by that is something called the reticular activating system, okay, or the RAS. Now, the reticular activating system is designed to literally filter out excess information that doesn't align with your values. That may sound like some spiritual weird thing, but it's not. Okay, what I mean by this is your brain has its own ability to make sure that you're not taking in too much information. It literally has a network of neurons and acts as a filter to make sure, hey, this is Thomas. This is what Thomas believes in. This is what Thomas usually does. All this extra stuff doesn't align with that, so let's make sure it's diffused a little bit. It really does exist like that, and it's pretty darn cool. And this is exactly where, yes, you might turn the video off at this point, visualization comes in handy. So you might be thinking visualization is this woo-woo weird nonsense, but visualization truly has an effect on this RAS portion of our brain, because our brain doesn't know the difference between what is actuality and what is visualization. Sure, we have peripheral cells and peripheral things that know when something is a thought versus an action, but our brain, for all intents and purposes, is just thinking when you're actively visualizing something that it's actually existing. So then later on down the line, if you don't act upon that visualization, you almost have an identity crisis because your brain is already there. Your brain has already visualized you reaching your goals day after day after day after day. So then when you don't do that in real life, think about it, you have an identity crisis. Hey, I want to take a quick pause really quick to make sure that you hit that subscribe button and then hit that little bell icon to turn notifications. It's going to make sure that you see all my videos and make sure that you're always locked in here on my channel. All right, let's go ahead and continue. So when you're visualizing things, what happens is brain cells get excited. Okay, they interpret that action, and that is very, very important. So the way that you visualize is really simple. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Okay, you literally sit there and visualize yourself reaching your goals, and you create a habit out of it day in and day out, not necessarily in defined periods of time, but just throughout the day. You just see it, you feel it, you think about every single sensation that would come along with it. What it feels like to be sweating in the gym, what it feels like to feel your waist shrinking, what it feels like to be fasting, etc., etc. Now here's some other practical things that you can put into place with this. Okay, alpha and theta waves. Get to know your brain waves a little bit. Now I'm not saying you need to plug yourself into a device or anything like that, but studies have shown that both alpha waves and theta wave states are much more suggestive states, which means that we can tap into our subconscious a lot more. You see, our active brain is only utilizing a small percentage of our energy in our cells, but our subconscious brain is using the vast majority of them. So if we can tap into the subconscious, and again, not through some weird woo-woo stuff, just through regular science and regular day-to-day life, we can make a big difference. So one of the ways that I suggest doing this is utilizing binaural beats. And I recommend that you check out some of the videos I've done on binaural beats. I'll put them down in the description so we don't waste the time of this video. But that's where you can basically listen to specific tones that help your brain get into a very specific brainwave state. And then practice your visualization during these times because you're going to get more bang for the buck. 3 to 5 minutes of listening to binaural beats while doing visualization might be just as powerful as doing visualization for the entirety of the day, okay? Another thing I might recommend is something called box breathing, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on that either. You can Google it. No need to waste the time on this video. But it's essentially where you inhale for 5 or 6 seconds, you hold your breath for 5 or 6 seconds, you exhale for 5 or 6 seconds, and then you hold again for 5 or 6 seconds. Again, look it up, but the point is it's going to help you get into that state where you can absorb information a little bit more, and you do that in conjunction with the binaural beats. Anyway, it's a big practice that I have, and it makes a big difference. I do it even before I film to help get my mind right. Now let's talk about dopamine, the fun stuff, right? Okay, so dopamine is our reward system for both good and bad. And this is exactly why I don't like New Year's resolutions, but I understand that people do them, and I understand that they're important for people as far as just an intrinsic or even extrinsic drive. Okay, dopamine gives us that reward when we do something good, or it gives us the negative feedback when we do something bad. If we touch something hot, and it burns us, that's dopamine telling us, hey, this was not good. It's also pleasure. So it's just a stimulus response. That's all it is. So short-term goals throw us off simply because we're chasing those goals, and it trains us to almost be compulsive or obsessive. So we want to be careful with that. Then long-term goals, well, that's really tough because we're not getting that immediate gratification that we really need to create a habit loop. If we're not getting quick feedback and quick just overall gratification, we aren't going to stick to a plan, okay? Less than 8% of people that set a New Year's resolution end up reaching their actual goal, and 80% of the people that set New Year's resolutions are done by the first month. That just goes to show we're not getting that gratification that we need. So what do we do in that case? Well, what I would recommend and what I've done is embrace the process and get addicted to the process and the system. Now, what I mean by that is embrace it sucking, embrace it not being fun, embrace the pain, not because it's pain, but because it's a system and the process, and eventually you train your brain to develop a dopamine response to the process. I am addicted to my system of getting up at 5 a.m., going to the gym, coming back, having my routine. I am addicted to the process to the point where if I don't have that process, I feel confused, I feel weird. On my rest days when I'm not going to the gym, I feel completely out of whack because it's like I didn't get my fix. So you do that, but you also create a checklist for yourself, literally a checklist where you write things down or you put them in your phone and you check things off. Then you get into a system where you enjoy the system. You get addicted to the system of checking things off and getting through your routine. That is a crutch to get through that in the beginning. Now let's talk about some physical things that you can do, because so many people that watch my channel don't just want the mental woo-woo witch doctor stuff. Okay, high intensity interval training. One of the quickest ways to condition your brain from a physical standpoint. And it has to do with the fact that when you're doing high intensity interval training, you have a high degree of lactate. And this lactate is a byproduct of your workout, of a hard workout, and it goes to the brain and it triggers what is called a hormetic response. A hormetic response is where you want the stress. A hormetic response is stress that causes adaptation. So when we put stress on the brain, it triggers this adaptation that makes it so that the brain gets stronger, and we have more of what is called nerve growth factor and more of what is called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF. These two things allow our brain to get smarter. New neurons, new overall synapses, new communication. So it has a big role there. The other piece, one that I talk about all the time, do some fasting, not simply because you get the hormetic response with fasting, but because you get an element of mastery that comes along with it. And what I mean by mastery is when you fast, you have no choice but to develop mental toughness. And it's a very black and white. There's no ambiguity. You don't eat and then you eat. No better way to develop an element of mastery within yourself and feel like you accomplished something. In the world where you cannot control many things, okay? You cannot control what's going to happen to your family sometimes. You cannot control what happens to you. You can't even control what happens to your health in a lot of ways. But you can control when you eat or don't eat. And there is a sense of accomplishment that comes along with that, that sets the pace not just for your day, for your weeks, for your months, and for your year. And the last really important thing I want to talk about is a neurotransmitter piece, acetylcholine. Okay, so acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that helps brain cells and cells in general communicate with each other, whether it's your brain firing or your brain sending signals to your muscles to work out better. Without acetylcholine, things don't work as well. Acetylcholine declines with age, and when you look at people that have Alzheimer's, they have 90% reductions in their acetylcholine. So hopefully you're starting to see the connection and the correlation here. Without acetylcholine, we lose our memory, we lose our ability to have cognitive function, and we start to deteriorate our bodies. So there are ways that you can control this. Okay, obviously there's things that you can eat. Okay, eating eggs is going to be a great thing. Exercise is going to be a great thing. But there's a study that was published in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences that found when they took a look at Alzheimer's patients, if they gave them lion's mane, they ended up having significant improvements in not only their acetylcholine levels, but their choline acetyltransferase levels, which is an enzyme that takes choline from the diet and turns it into acetylcholine. So let's say you're eating eggs. Those eggs might not really do much, the choline might not do much unless you have this choline acetyltransferase. So really important stuff with that. So how can we boost that? Well, consuming lion's mane. So I talk about lion's mane in my videos all the time, so I'll leave you with this. Go ahead and check out Four Sigmatic if you want to try some lion's mane. They have lion's mane mushroom coffee, and it's a really interesting way to get lion's mane into your diet and help kind of recondition your brain. It's become a big part of my life. I've talked about it in videos all the time, and I try not to throw it in people's faces because honestly, it's just such an integral part of my life. It just weaves right in. So here we have the recap. the visualization along with binaural beats, and potential box breathing, which I encourage you to go look up. Okay, then we have the checklist piece and embracing the process and no longer making yourself motivated by long-term or even short-term rewards. Then we have high-intensity interval training. Then we have fasting. And then lastly, we have introducing lion's mane via your coffee so that you get that combination with the caffeine that's going to help your brain cells actually grow. So as always, do keep it locked in here on my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.